This will be the Smart #5, and in this video, we'll explore together what it can do. We'll be talking about how Smart is getting bigger, about lighting and design, discussing displays on the vehicle and inside the car, and we'll figure out how much of the concept will actually make it into the production model. And with that, hey and welcome to this new video here with Jonas, and welcome to the first impression of the Smart #5. Right here next to me, still in the concept study version. You see, so much lighting in a vehicle will probably not make it to the production series, but some of it will. As it stands here, we actually find it in the production model as well. How do I know this? It has already been presented, and I will show it to you in this video to give you a sense of it. How much of it actually makes it into the series. Still, it's interesting to stand here next to the car, simply because size, proportions, and even a bit of the material impression can be better judged when standing next to the car rather than just seeing press images somewhere. A car with an 800-volt onboard network, a 100 kilowatt-hour battery, and believe it or not, 15 minutes from 10 to 80% at the charging station. It's really very promising, but in its current form, it doesn't quite look like a smart car anymore. But I think we can actually check off this topic because Smart is increasingly becoming a comprehensive portfolio manufacturer. That means they will cover all areas. Maybe at some point also a real compact car that many of you out there are wishing for. If you don't want to miss that, and also not the production version of this vehicle here, feel free to subscribe to the channel below the video for free. It helps me a lot in my work and costs you nothing, and you will be notified when this little bell is activated whenever videos like this or even everyday tests of actually purchasable vehicles appear here on YouTube. Let's take a look at it from the outside first. Unfortunately, there isn't much information available about the #5 yet, but I've tried to gather what I could for you since the 28th. August, the production version was revealed. It was showcased in Australia in two different exhibition variants. Once presented as #5 Premium Plus and as #5 Summit. The Summit variant maintains a very strong resemblance to the concept model displayed here, which means that you will definitely also receive this roof rack that is mounted on the side. The ladder and some additional off-road features. It's projected to start at €90,000, but bear in mind that's in Australian dollars, which translates to roughly €55,300 at the current exchange rate. This figure is still speculative, so we will have to watch closely to see where it ultimately lands in reality. For the Premium Plus version, the expected starting price is €70,000 Australian dollars, which equates to approximately €43,000. This price range is somewhat similar to where a Tesla Model Y is positioned. However, it will depend on whether the vehicle enters the German market for that amount, considering that current tariffs on imports from China could potentially cause the price to increase further. For €43,000, I honestly believe that's quite reasonable, particularly considering that the vehicle will consistently come equipped with a 100 kilowatt-hour battery. I unfortunately couldn't determine for you whether that's gross or net, but I do know with certainty that Smart advertises with the 100 kilowatt hours. I would guess it's akin to Kia with the EV9. That has some similarity to the vehicle here, only larger, is always given as a net value. And due to the advanced supercharging feature, which is what Smart itself likes to refer to it as, the vehicle boasts the impressive ability to charge from 10 to 80% capacity in just a short span of 15 minutes. And that's just 70 kilowatt hours, a capacity that would surely set a new benchmark in the present electric car market, especially for a Smart. This is made possible by the 800-volt architecture, which we already know from Geely, for example, from the Lotus Eletta or Enyaq. They had the capability to charge rapidly as well, but they weren't able yet to do it within such a brief period from 10 to 80%. And additionally, there will be a 220-volt architecture, volt socket, and a vehicle-to-load adapter. Whether or not the vehicle is capable of supporting vehicle-to-grid functionality, I'll just assume that for now. The vehicle's range is reported to be 740 kilometers, as measured under the Chinese CLTC testing cycle. It possesses a notably higher range as a result of the highway speed factor. In this specific cycle, it is indeed lower. In Germany, it is expected to achieve a range of nearly 600 kilometers because this CLTC value typically averages between 10 and 15%. Compared to the WLTP value, taking into account how effective the drag coefficient is and naturally how the highway speed influences it. Honestly, the car seems much larger to me than 4.70 meters because even a Model Y is bigger and only a Volkswagen ID.4 is the same size. Sure, but given the way it's presented in the studio with the vehicle being significantly raised, it certainly takes on different proportions and dimensions entirely. I'll present an image of the production vehicle here for you once more, and then you can more easily make an informed guess as to why this car doesn't extend beyond the 5-meter mark. And the wheelbase measures only 2.90 meters, while there are indeed some competitors out there now who consistently is approximately 3 meters. Overall, I must say that the car actually appeals to me visually from the outside. I appreciate the distinctly masculine appearance of the vehicle, and it maintains its own unique design language in contrast to the Hashtag 3, which had begun to look quite similar to a typical Mercedes design recently. I'm not implying the design was more influenced by the G-Class here. I would actually say that Hashtag 5 is noticeably and significantly more independent all on its own, just like Hashtag 1 was back in the day. It also has a design like hardly any other vehicle out there. What I find fascinating is that the front headlights almost look like the taillights. That's a quite nice touch, and it really rounds off the overall picture perfectly. Under the hood, by the way, there are 72 liters of trunk volume, so it's indeed quite reasonably spacious. He can almost compete with Tesla in that regard. SmartGate doesn't specify the trunk volume yet and only mentions that the car has a total of 1,530 liters of storage space in the rear and 34 storage compartments throughout the interior, whatever that might eventually indicate to us. The most important question right off the bat, which avatar is there in Hashtag 5? It will be a lion? So that's all settled. Following the introduction of the cheetah and the fox avatars, we now have the lion. It will indeed be very interesting to see if choosing from the others still remains an option. In the first hashtag, only the fox was present, but let's set that aside for now. We'll discuss the software more later. The vehicle is equipped with an augmented reality head-up display that measures 25.6 inches and also features a well-sized 10.3-inch instrument cluster within its interior. These are the basic infos. Hinting at excitement, as positioned right next to them are two expansive 13-inch AMOLED 2.5K displays. These exceptionally high resolution, considerably large and vividly sharp screens boast deep black OLED qualities specifically designed for enhancing the driver's visual experience even further. But they are also available for the passenger. Unfortunately, there is still no detailed information on how this actually functions, whether it can be used while driving or if, similar to what we've already observed with the Audi Q6, there's a kind of layer over it so the driver can't see the passenger display. Seeing this for the first time is really impressive, and it will also be exciting to see if there will eventually be a low-budget version that perhaps only comes with a display, with a smaller battery, and the price dropping again. That would be really interesting. Would that be something you'd consider? Feel free to leave a comment below. Another standout feature inside is the Sennheiser signature sound system equipped with a total of 20 speakers. It's important to note that these aren't speakers directly from the German company Sennheiser. Instead, the vehicle's speakers were expertly and carefully tuned in collaboration with Sennheiser. Recently, there have been some really exciting videos from Sennheiser. I'll provide a link to Icario's video below this one. He really presented the topic in a cool way. If you're interested in the topic of sound in vehicles, unfortunately, I wasn't invited to be there in person. Moreover, there are speakers that can retract and come with ambient lighting features included, whatever that's supposed to mean in this context. There's a built-in projector that essentially allows this glamping experience to happen right inside, offering the comforts and atmosphere of outdoor luxury indoors. So the idea that in China and also in Australia and many other markets, though less in Europe, there's a lot of overnight stays in cars. And that obviously makes these features more convenient when you can directly watch movies in the car on an even larger screen, considering that two 13-inch screens might not be sufficient. However, the projector is cleverly not hidden inside the car, unlike in certain other concepts where a screen typically rolls down. No, it's built in down here and can basically project onto a screen, a wall, or whatever surface you position there, really for anyone to use. Arms that are meant to hold bed sheets have the ability to project movies, content, and so forth. And unfortunately, that's only available in China. As is often the case, such gimmicks are not intended for the European market. And accordingly, I showed it to you here. It's a cool idea. Maybe there will be retrofit solutions someday because the space is provided and probably the technology as well. I'm curious to see when the first person will retrofit that in Europe. For us, the inside displays were plenty sufficient. Even though I unfortunately can't show you the interior in person, meaning I'm not allowed to go in and sit down to really get a sense of it, what it looks like inside, and I'm not allowed to tap on the display to see how the charging plan is, how fast the AMD processor actually is. However, I can view a software demo. Admittedly, it's currently still a bit jerky here, as is often the case with the demos we can present to you, but it gives a sense of what to expect. What can genuinely be expected to come next, because while the older smart models or the other smart models, it was playful, yet we tidied it up really well here, still keeping its playful nature. It will be interesting to see how it is in the series because all this light design in here with the illuminated inner door panels and so on will, of course, not make it into the series. That's why it will be exciting to see which of the displays make it. The driver info display seemed relatively production-like, with a driver assistant information in the middle, which I found very exciting, because that was often a point of criticism from me, that this driver info display wasn't used the way it could have been used. That looks noticeably better in here now, and I also find the integration of these two center displays really quite nicely done. They're all in this pillow design, mimicking the oval shape that we've already seen in other smart models before. You'll see that repeated there too, and there are quick shortcuts on the right side of the steering wheel, strongly reminiscent of other smart models. Even though this two-seat configuration in the back looks pretty cool, in the series for Europe, it will at least only have the classic three-seater rear bench. There were already pictures of that. Then you can fold it accordingly to reach the mentioned 1,500 liters. This definitely gives off a very Chinese vibe in terms of its appearance. However, it looks quite cool, and you can also notice some really cool features here and there. For example, the door opener has now become a button here, and the electric seat adjustment has moved to the door. For example, we recognize this from Mercedes. Now I am eager to hear your detailed feedback in the comments. Are you excited about the smart #5, or are you team #2, like finally coming, we need a compact one again, because that's what you keep writing in the comments all the time. But they do exist. Because compact electric cars are already on the market now, more and more are coming. I'll link a video up in the corner. Regarding #5, one could say that if it comes to Europe at the price point it was introduced in Australia, of course taking into account tariffs and all the related matters, has the potential to be a very strong competitor because it looks visually quite impressive, offers a considerable amount of space, and is certainly promising in what? Charging capacity, range, battery size, and especially build quality. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm really excited to hear your feedback. Otherwise, you'll find my last test of the smart #3 up here. It wasn't too long ago that we could test it thoroughly for you again. And down here, you can find the #1 in the bravest version.